Hi, I'm Douglas Mason, President and CEO of Magnum Gold Corp. Inc., MGI on the TSX Venture Exchange. A 2015 drill program on the LH property intersected high-grade gold, including 16.9 meters of 13.58 grams and 11 meters of 20.66 grams per ton gold. A follow-up drill program is planned to further evaluate previously identified subsurface high-grade gold mineralization. Please visit our website at magnumgoldcorp.com.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is John Rubino, author of several books on the economy, including The Money Bubble, his website, dollarcollapse.com. Welcome back to the show, John.
Hey, Jim.
The whole world watching this trade war developing between China and the U.S. Can there be any winners?
Well, I suspect that this is a strategy by Donald Trump to get a deal done. And the way he's worked in his business life is he'll lead with an offer, and if that's not taken, then he'll come back with a lawsuit. So we're kind of in the lawsuit stage of the process right now, where he's trying to make life so miserable for U.S. trading partners that their attitude is going to become, what do we need to do to get this over with, and then they cut a deal. So I think this, as crazy as it sounds right now, it sounds really stressful and threatening, because a full-on global trade war could stop this recovery in its tracks and send us back into a very nasty recession. But I suspect that one of these days we'll wake up and find out that at 4 o'clock in the morning, Donald Trump made a tweet in which he ended the trade war and announced that we have a deal and that everything's going back to the way it was with a few tweaks at the margins of trade policy and free trade agreements, et cetera, et cetera. And so this will just be a weird memory. So I don't think it's anything long-lasting. I don't think it's going to leave as big a scar as it could leave if it lasted a long time and turned into a big global recession. But I don't think we're going to come out of this unscathed. As you were saying before we went live, the fact that Trump is picking on Canada and Europe, who are our allies, and starting trade conflicts with people who've basically been friends for decades or centuries. Against the U.S. and Canada, it's been a really close couple of cultures for as far back as we go. That he's doing that might lead some bad feelings that might come back to haunt the U.S. at some point. I hope not, but it is completely possible that what he's trying to do in importing his business strategies over to politics will have some unintended consequences that we feel later on. I really don't know what exactly is going to happen, but I'm afraid that we're going to lose close relationships that we value, or have to work really hard to rebuild them, or whatever. And that's not the intention, but that's going to be one of the consequences of this.
Well, we know in the past that he is a hardball negotiator, and you should expect that. But when, you start attacking your closest neighbor, and as Justin Trudeau pointed out, it wasn't Canadians who burnt down the White House, it was British troops. And, Canada's separate from Britain. We don't do what Britain wants us to do. It seems to me Canada is now pretty well marches to its own drummer no matter who the government is. And the hard feelings, friends of mine are telling me they don't buy Kentucky whiskey anymore. They're not buying bourbon from the States. They're not buying Coors beer, even though it's probably made in Canada. But to them, it seems like you're picking on a good friend for no reason.
Jim, I hope you guys are still finding enough liquor to...
Oh, there's no problem there.
Okay, good.
Yeah. If you want good whiskey, they make... Crown Royal in Gimli, Manitoba.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't you guys make better whiskey than we do? There's no reason for you to have to buy ours.
Well, I am partial there to the Jameson whiskey from Ireland as well. No, it's not.
Yeah.
So, apart from these hard feelings, and do you think in diplomatic channels they're saying, please don't panic over this? I mean,
Yes.
people were surprised that Canada, imposed countervailing duties on American stuff. Why poke a bear that wants to start a fight?
Well, when someone initiates something and you're the leader of the country that's the victim of the initiation, you got to come back with something. You can't appear to be weak. So everybody has to respond to Trump's tariffs and rhetoric, even though they probably have your attitude that, if you just ignore him, he'll go away pretty soon. Things will go back to normal. But you can't really do that in politics. You have to be cognizant of the optics of the whole thing. You've got to never look weak if you're the leader of the country, because that's a quick way to get voted out of office. So this has to ratchet up. There has to be rounds of retaliation. And that's what we're seeing around the world. China and Russia and Europe have all increased tariffs on a lot of stuff that, for instance, I played poker the other night with some farmers, and they're not happy about this at all. They're expecting to lose money this year because the price of a lot of grain that we would normally be trading with China or exporting to Europe, the prices are falling. And these guys have pretty much fixed costs. They can't cut their costs in the middle of a season. So they're seeing their profit margins shrink and maybe evaporate, and they're not happy about it at all. And this is Trump's core. These guys are part of the Trump constituency out there that cobbled together a victory for him. So he can't be happy about the way the trade retaliations are affecting the different sectors of the U.S. economy, because logically, a lot of people doing the retaliating are going after his base. They're trying to make it as painful for him as possible. Harley Davidson, God, how many Harley motorcycle riders do you think voted for Hillary Clinton this time? Maybe like two. And meanwhile, Harley is one of the companies that's being hardest hit by this trade war. So there are unintended consequences for the Republicans in all of this, too. So it's not clear how it all plays out, because there's a lot of moving parts. But I really hope we get this over with pretty soon. I don't really disagree, by the way, with the idea that, for instance, China and the U.S. have inequitable trading terms of trade. And I think China has benefited from, for instance, being able to poach our intellectual property and get away with it. So to the extent that we're trying to redress that, not a bad idea. Yeah? And something that's probably overdue. But this broad brush thing where you're going after Europe and Canada, when you might be able to negotiate, if something's not quite balanced, you can negotiate that behind the scenes as friends, right? You don't have to do a public attack. Maybe that's what you need to do with somebody like China, who's got a really sweet deal and doesn't want to give it up. I don't know.
Isn't that the whole idea behind the NAFTA negotiations? No doubt, play hardball, try to get the best deal possible. That's what most countries do when they do trade deals.
Well, that's the that's the technique Trump is using. But I'm uncomfortable with it because our NAFTA partners, for instance, are our friends. And with friends, you can just sit down quietly behind closed doors and work things out most of the time. You don't have to stage a public fight.
Yeah, one always wonders, too, is he aware that Canadian soldiers in Afghanistan are fighting shoulder to shoulder with Americans?
I don't know. I have no idea whether that's something that's part of the discussion at that level, or that everybody knows is true. I have no idea how any of this is working, because Trump's business strategy, first of all, is kind of alien to most people. You don't go into business deals with your lawyers out front normally, but for him it's worked really well, and it's given him this 30 or 40 year career in which he's been famous and by and large successful. So for him it's worked, and he's just adapting it now to politics, and it makes a lot of people uncomfortable. But I think the most things would go back to normal after that. He'd be replaced by one of the Clintons or a Republican analog of the Clintons. We'd go back to kind of middle of the road, center right, center left politics. But they may not have foreseen how many Supreme Court justices he's going to get to name, because it's already 2, which is a fairly good haul for most presidents. Not that many presidents get to name 2 Supreme Court justices who then affect the world for the next 30 or 40 years. Trump is looking at maybe 3 because Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who's an extremely liberal justice, she's up there. She's like 85 years old. So there's no guarantee that she can maintain through the rest of the Trump presidency. And if he were to get reelected and hit 8 years, then he might get to name 4 Supreme Court justices, which means that his influence will be felt long after a lot of the people watching him aren't around anymore. And that could be the biggest consequence of a Trump presidency, that he came along at a time when there were going to be a lot of openings on the Supreme Court, and he gets to name, his impulse is fairly hard-right Republicans, like Justice Scalia, who was the first guy he got to replace, because he died while in office. And that's going to give us a very conservative Supreme Court for 30 or 40 years. In fact, we already have one, and if he names one more justice who's to the right of Anthony Kennedy, who's retiring now, then we're going to have a very conservative Supreme Court for a long time. And that's going to be arguably more of an impact than any of the last 3 or 4 presidents have had on the progress of the U.S. So it's interesting to think that a guy who a lot of people thought of as an aberration and someone who would be forgotten pretty quickly is going to see his influence last probably longer than he lives.
We'll have more with John Rubino right after the break.
MGX Minerals is revolutionizing the new energy economy with patented lithium extraction technology, replacing traditional solar evaporation using low-cost, low-energy nanofiltration. The first system of this paradigm shift technology is currently being commissioned. MGX Minerals trades on the CSE, symbol XMG, the OTCQB, symbol MGXMF, and Frankfurt, symbol 1MG. For more information, visit our website, mgxminerals.com.
I'm Kelly Jennings, CEO of PowerBand Solutions. PowerBand is a cloud-based provider of auction, inventory, and finance solutions that make buying, selling, and financing vehicles more efficient. PowerBand Solutions trades on the TSX Venture Exchange symbol PBX and on the OTCQB symbol PWWPF and on Frankfurt symbol 1ZV. For more information, please visit us at powerbandsolutions.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with John Rubino. John, one of the men with one of the most notorious haircuts in Europe, is going to be stepping down from the political scene. Boris Johnson, no longer part of the Brexit package. What's happening there?
Well, it's kind of turning out that Brexit is impossible to do. It looks like they might just flat out not be able to get it done. And the people in Theresa May's government aren't, there's no consensus on what they should be doing. They've been trying a lot of ideas, floating a soft Brexit and a hard Brexit and everything in between, and none of it is really seeming to stick. And with Boris Johnson gone, and also the minister in charge of the whole Brexit process just left lately, I think. So with those guys gone, that implies that the government itself might not be able to stand much longer. Maybe Theresa May gets replaced as prime minister. And that they might end up just flat out leaving the EU without negotiating any kind of transition terms or any remaining relationships where, as you said before we went live, the UK just becomes another foreign country relative to the EU. And that's not what Britain wanted. So it's definitely not what they wanted after they saw what the stakes were and realized what that might mean. All the special relationship kinds of things that they would lose. But it might be what they get. And in the end, I think the UK is going to be fine. That's a powerhouse culture. English speaking, financially sophisticated, artistically very sophisticated. 20 years from now, or 30 years from now, or 40 years from now, Great Britain is going to be fine. They're going to be a consequential, I don't know if you call them a country because they're a union, but the peoples making up Great Britain right now will be consequential and rich. So it's going to work out. But in the meantime, it's going to be really messy if they have to do a hard Brexit, because that means a lot of relationships just end. And then you got to work out the legal details of what happens next, and how do contracts get rewritten, and what are the terms of trade in this commodity and that commodity, and what about people being able to move across borders? You know, can you go from France to Britain now without having to jump through a lot of legal hoops? I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be like. And they don't completely know either, so it's got them a little bit screwed. The pound I saw just plunged on the news that Boris, what was Boris' last name again?
Johnson.
Boris Johnson that he was leaving. So there are some financial implications too. But again, it's one of those things that'll work out. Things can be messy and seem insurmountable, and then you get it done. And that's what they'll do with Brexit. One way or another, they will not be part of the EU shortly, UK. And it's going to work itself out. But in the meantime, it could be very messy. And we have a lot of things like that, where we're going to be all right at some point in the future. But in the meantime, we got to get through this thing, whatever it is. And the biggest, obviously, that I repeat all the time when we talk, the financial crisis that's coming. We borrowed so much money, and we've taken on so much leverage otherwise in derivatives and unfunded liabilities, et cetera, that there's no way we avoid a gigantic financial crisis. And we will get through it. But while we're passing through it, it's going to seem like the end of the world for a lot of people. And that's coming. So a lot of the work that I do is about how you invest for something like this. You know, how do you arrange your finances so you get through a financial crisis in good shape and maybe even richer than you entered it. That's the intellectual goal of, for instance, precious metals investing. You want to be able to protect yourself and maybe even make some serious money when there's a financial crisis that you didn't cause, you can't stop, but it's your job to protect your family somehow. And the whole precious metals investing, crisis investing kind of mindset is all about that. What falls apart when there's a big crisis? For instance, the banking system. If it implodes in your country and the value of your currency plunges because nobody really trusts your government anymore, what does that do to your finances? Well, think it through, figure out how to invest for that, and maybe you even make money in that process. That should be all of our goals right now.
So, John, we'll talk about that right after the break.
Vatic Ventures Corp. is a potash exploration company focused on the Korat Basin in Thailand, the world's largest undeveloped potash resource. Vatic's management has extensive potash exploration and development experience in Thailand. Vatic will have marketing advantage compared to Western producers. Drill program commences this spring. Vatic trades on the TSX Venture, symbol VCV, and on Frankfurt, symbol V8V2. Visit our website, vaticventures.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with John Rubino. So, John, if we anticipate crazy times out there, is gold the place to be, and what is gold doing right now?
Well, gold is definitely the place to be historically. In other words, if you go back through the history of financial crises, go back to the Roman Empire and then work your way forward through the French Revolution and the German hyperinflation and all the other stuff that involved countries destroying their own currencies, gold was the place to be every single time. So it's highly likely that precious metals will do well when all of this debt comes back to bite us. Basically, the scenario that's most likely is that we have another 2008-2009 style crisis at some point where a lot of different highly leveraged sectors of the world start to blow up, and central banks respond to that by cutting interest rates into negative territory and by buying that leads to a currency crisis. In other words, everybody who sees how much currency is being created no longer trusts the value of those currencies. And the dollar and the euro and the yen start falling, not necessarily versus each other, but versus real stuff, which is to say that the price of things starts going way up. In that kind of an environment, precious metals will do brilliantly, gold and silver, and the shares of mining stocks that have lots of gold in the ground. So that's one sector of the investment universe that you can probably count on to do well over time as this all plays out. There might be a sharp drop in the moment when everything starts to fall apart. That's what happened in 2008. Gold and silver both plunged, but then they took right off. When central banks started bailing out every bank in sight and creating huge amounts of new currency and cutting interest rates, then gold and silver took off, and they were rockets for 5 straight years. They were the best performing assets out there. I suspect that the same thing will happen again, but on a bigger scale, because we've taken on so much more debt in the meantime. In the last 10 years, instead of scaling back our indebtedness, which is what logical people would do right after a debt-driven financial crisis that almost wiped out the global banking system, we did the opposite. We took on immense amounts of debt, somehow thinking that was going to solve the problem of excessive debt in the first place. And it didn't, really. It gave us the illusion of a recovery, but it's all based on borrowed money. So at some point, all of these incredibly highly leveraged players out there, whether it's people who have bought or borrowed too much money to buy new cars, or students who have borrowed too much money to get semi-worthless college degrees, or governments that have borrowed way too much money to cover the unfunded liabilities of their Social Security and Medicare and other pension plans, or state and local pensions that didn't fund themselves correctly, and now they owe a bunch of money to teachers and firefighters, but they don't have the money. All of these guys are going to start blowing up. And governments are going to step in to bail them out by creating new currency and handing it off to these guys. And that's going to blow everything up. So once it becomes clear that our stated explicit goal is to cheapen our currency year after year after year as a way to get out from under this debt, then nobody's going to want to hold the currencies, and you're going to want real stuff. So gold and silver, for sure, mining stocks, for sure, maybe farmland, other kinds of well-chosen real estate, maybe some energy assets, because oil in the ground isn't going anywhere. And to the extent that oil stays valuable and we continue to use it, oil wells will be valuable. So stuff like that is going to do really well, or relatively well. And things like bank stocks and government bonds and junk bonds, they're not going to do well at all. So you want to shift your money out of the financial assets that will get crushed in a 2008-2009 on steroids scenario, and shift into the hard assets that will protect you from stuff like that. Timing is an issue. You don't know exactly when this is all going to happen and exactly how long it takes each stage to play out. But I think it makes a lot of sense to have part of your finances shifted in that direction already, and to be moving in that direction over time, so that at some point in the future, you're 100% in hard assets and 0% in soon-to-be evaporating financial assets.
John, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Sure thing, Jim.
Guest has been John Rubino, author of several books on the economy, including The Money Bubble, his website, dollarcollapse.com. You're listening to HowStreet.com Radio. Find us on Twitter @HowStreet. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Questions for the show can be sent to info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com Radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com Radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.